Hello, this is a walkthrough for the WJEC Summer 2023 Mathematics Foundation paper. This is paper 1, which is the non-calculator paper. There's 65 marks and we've got an hour and a half or 90 minutes to do that, so plenty of time, and it's important to stress that you should not rush at the start of the paper where the easier questions are, because you don't want to throw away easy marks. Page 2 has got one formula. In this case, it's for the area of a trapezium. So don't forget that that's there, because that might come in useful at some point during the exam. Okay, on to the first question. So question 1a says write the number 60,043 in figures. So I tend to say this in my head as I write it. 60,000, it's no 100 there, so I'm going to put a comma, no 100 and 43. So reading it back, 60,043. Yeah, I'm happy that's correct. Part B, write down the value of the 7 in the number 137520. Well, we can see the 7 is there and it's in the thousands column. So this is 7,000. You could write that in words, but there is no need. That would be perfectly adequate to get you the mark. On to question C. Dividing 504 by 8. You probably want to use the bus stop method here. So setting out the bus stop, there's 504 people waiting for the bus and 8 buses. Okay, so first thing is to do 8 into 5. Well, I can't do 8 into 5, so I'm going to carry the 5 over to the next column. Okay, I've not written that very clearly, in fact, so I'm going to rewrite that a little bit bigger so that we can see it clearly. 8 into 504. Okay, so nothing, I can't do 8 into 5, but the 5 hasn't been used, so I carry it over to the next column and it becomes 50 now. So I've got 8 into 50. If you don't know your 8 times table, a useful thing to do is to write them out. So 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48 and 56. Well, we're gone beyond 50 now. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gives me 48. And then there's another 2 left over to take it up to 50. So we put the 2 that was left over here, and that's now 24. And if you're looking at our times table we've just drawn out, we can see that that goes into that exactly 3 times. So a 3 there, and my answer is 63. Part D, subtract 394 from 800. Another way of saying this is 800 minus 394. And we need to use the column method here. So 800, carefully lining up my numbers so that they're in the right order. I put a minus in to remind myself that that's what I'm doing, I'm not adding. So 0 take away 4. Well, if I've got 0, I can't take 4 away from it. So normally I would go to the next column to borrow, but there's nothing there. So I need to go over to the next column, the 8, where the 8 is, and I'm going to borrow from the 8 and turn that 8 into a 7, and then this column becomes a 10. And then I'm going to borrow from the 10 and make that a 9, and the right hand column now is a 10. Okay, so I've got now 10 take away 4, which I can do. That leaves me with 6. Then I've got 9 take away 9, which is 0, and then 7 take away 3 is 4. So my answer is 406. Okay. Oh, we've got one more question there. I just didn't spot there at the bottom. Okay. So multiplying 93 by 7. A couple of ways of doing this, but I will probably use the box method. Okay, the box method is the easiest one usually. So 90 and 3 to make up the 93. And I'm multiplying by 7. So I want to do 7 times by 90. Well, I can't do 7 by 90 easily, but I can do 7 by 9. That's 63. So I'm going to write 63 in there, but this extra 0 needs to go on the end. I've got one extra 0 in the question, so I'll put the 0 on the end. 7 times by 3 is easy, that's 21. Now what I need to do is I need to add these two values up that I've got. So 630 plus 21, making sure that I line it up correctly, 651. Okay, so my final answer is 651. So, moving on. Question 2. Shade the smallest number of squares needed to make AB a line of symmetry. So that AB horizontal line that we've got there is like a mirror line, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure each of these squares on this side matches with one on the other. And the first column there, you can see those two squares match, don't they? They're both 4 squares from the center line. Now, going to the next column, this one does not have a matching one the other side, 2 squares from it. That would go here. So I need to shade in this bit. Okay, over to the next column, this one. There isn't a matching one, but it would go here. Okay, so that would reflect onto there. This one is 3 squares away from the center line, so is this one, so those match okay. This one has not got a matching one on the other side. It's right at the extreme. It's 4 squares from the center line, so I would do a 4 squares from the center line over here and shade that in. Going over to the next column, we've got one here. There isn't a matching one. It's 3 squares from the center line, so there we go again. And then on the final column, these two actually match up okay, so now we've actually completed it. And that was 2 marks, so well done for that. And now, this next question involves angles. Now, it's a bit difficult to do on screen, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in a little bit here on the question. So here we go. Here's the first part, part A of 3. And it says measure and write down the size of angle Y. Now, to measure it, I'm going to have to use a protractor. That's the one that measures the angle. So I'm going to place my protractor exactly on where the Y angle is. So I want to make sure that my protractor ends up on that point of the crosshairs and lined up with this line here. Okay, so onto the next page where I've done that. So here we go. We've matched up the protractor on the crosshairs here. Here. So we've matched it up exactly on the crosshairs, and be as accurate as you can. I've lined this up, and the line is here. You can see it's on the 0. Right? We can't start counting from 0 because the angle that we want to measure is that angle there. That's the angle Y. And so we need to measure from here in that direction. So we go from 0 right the way around until we get to this point here. Okay, and if I look, that's 130, 135, and then 2 more little bits, so it's 137. Okay, 137 degrees is the answer. Being careful that you do not read from the other scale that's there, because this scale here starts counting from 0 here. We're not interested in that. We're really careful that we've counted from the 0 scale on the line and gone all the way around the outside. And we can see that it is in fact an obtuse angle. It's an angle bigger, that angle there is bigger than 90 degrees. So if I'd got the other scale, I would have ended up with an acute angle. So I could have told probably by checking at the end that it didn't look quite right. Okay, moving on to part B of question 3. It says, draw a line through the point C that is perpendicular to AB. So the line from A to B is from A here, from point A to point B. Okay, that's the line, and we want to it says draw. It doesn't say construct, so I don't need to use compasses for this one. I just need to use a protractor. So I'm going to put my protractor on the line. The crosshairs are going to go on the C there. Okay, so just move on to the next page for that. So here's the line now. I've lined up my protractor with the crosshairs on C. Notice that A is at roughly 0, well, it's exactly at 0 degrees, and B is the other end of that line, which shows at 180 degrees. I want to find 90 degrees, which is the halfway point. It doesn't matter which scale I look at because it's halfway through. So I'm going to put a mark where the 90-degree line is. Okay. And then I'm going to have to remove my protractor. I've got my mark there, and I'm going to draw a line from C to where I've marked the X. So there, I've done that, and now this line is perpendicular to AB, perpendicular meaning 90 degrees. So we can see that that angle there is a 90-degree angle. Okay, that's that question answered. So this is more of a problem-solving style question, this one. So 4A, Billy thinks of a number. Billy halves his number. His answer is 58. What number did Billy think of? So I can use algebra to do this if I can't see what the answer is. So if I have n as the number Billy thought of, if I half that number, I divide it by 2, my answer is 58. Now, to rearrange that, to get rid of this 2 at the bottom so that I'm left with just n, so I want to be just left with n, I'm going to multiply by 2 to get rid of the divide by 2 here. So multiplying by 2 gives me n on the left-hand side, and then I also need to multiply by 2 on the right-hand side, and so 2 times 58 is, tricky, 2 50s are 100, and 2 8s are 16, so that is 116. Notice that I'm underlining my answer when I've got a fair bit of working sometimes, just to highlight what my answer is. Part B. Sean thinks of a different number. So we'll call this one M. Sean thinks of a different number M. Sean squares her number. Sorry, Sean, not Sean. So she squares her number and her answer is 9. Now, in this case, I've got to get rid of a square. Now, the opposite function of a square is a square root. So I'm going to square root it. And square root of a square undoes it and gives me just m on its own. But I also need to square root the other side. And the square root of 9 is 3. Because 3 times 3 would give me 9. So my answer here is 3, and again I've underlined to highlight what my answer is. Part C. Calculate 40% of 120. So 40% of 120. And probably I'm going to work out what 10% of 120 is first of all. That's going to be the easiest thing to do. So 10% of something means divide it by 10. So that is 12. 120 divided by 10 is 12. So 10% is worth 12. 20% will be double that. Would be 24. And 40% will be double that, which is 48. And that is my answer, 48. It seems reasonable. It's slightly less than half of 120. Question 5. Which of the following is equal to 0.5 kilograms? So 0.5 kilograms. 1 kilogram equals 1,000 grams. So half a kilogram must be half of 1,000, which is 500 grams. Okay, so we've got 500 twice, we've got 500 here and 500 here, but this one's milligrams, so I'm not interested in that. It is this one that I want, 500 grams. Which of the following, for part B, which of the following is equal to 700 centimetres? Well, there's 100 centimetres in a metre. So 700 centimetres must be 7 lots of a metre, which will be that one there. Being careful that I don't pick 7 kilometres, because, or possibly 70. They're very similar answers, aren't they? But you've got to be very careful about the unit and the number. Okay, and we finished question 5. And now we're on to question 6. And quite a few words in this, but at the top of this question it says, in this question you will be assessed on the quality of your organisation and communication and accuracy in writing. Okay, and there's 2 extra marks for doing that. Okay, so you might get the question right, but if you don't show your working or present your work in the right way, then you won't get those extra 2 marks. You'll just get the 4, even if it's right. So let's read the question. Rod A and Rod B are drawn accurately below. 3 of Rod A and 4 of Rod B are placed end to end in one straight line, and it's asking us, what is the total length of these rods? Well, what I'm going to have to do first of all is work out the length of each of these rods, and if I measure them accurately using a ruler, I can see that this one is 5 centimeters long and this one is 2 centimeters long. So probably the first thing I'm going to show in my working is rod A equals 5 centimeters, rod B equals 2 centimeters. I've presented that really clearly. Now, it says that we're going to place 3 of rod A. Well, 3 times rod A equals 3 times 5, which is 15 centimeters long. And how many would B we want? We want 4. We want 4 of rod B. So 4 times rod B is 4 times 2 centimeters, which is 8 centimeters. Notice that when I've written my values here and here, that I've actually put the units in, and that's part of the OCW marks that you will get for this. Now, what is the total length of all these rods? Okay, we need to add them together, so I'm going to put total length equals 15 plus 8, which equals 23 centimeters, and I'm underlining my answer to make sure that that's really clear. And I'll probably just check quickly that I've answered the question. What is the total length of these rods? And it's only saying that you must show all of your working. So I've given my answer in centimeters. If you converted it to a different unit, that would be okay, but probably you're making life more difficult for yourself by doing something like that. Okay, let's move on. So this is question 7. So Catherine has a bag containing only apples, bananas and lemons. She has 20 pieces of fruit altogether in her bag. Catherine chooses one piece of fruit at random from her bag. The probability that she chooses each type of fruit is shown on the probability scale below. So we've got apples here, we've got bananas here, and we've got lemons here. Okay, how many apples does Catherine have in her bag? I think it's important to just check back now. There's important information inside this. There's 20 pieces of fruit altogether. That's probably a number that you need to remember. So I've underlined it there to highlight it. So if we look at apples, that's here. And we look at the scale at the numbers at the bottom, 0 and 1 would mean 0.5 would be here. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, that each of these things is 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, etc. And the apples has got 0.3 chance. That's the probability of choosing an apple is 0.3. So we've got a probability of 0.3. That's for choosing one apple. But if I'm going to do that choosing out of 20 pieces of fruit, I'm going to times that by 20, and that should tell me how many pieces of fruit I've got. Well, 3 times 2 is 6. 0.3 times 2 will be 0.6, and 0.3 times 20 will take me back to 6 as well. Okay, so I've just adjusted there. 6 seems a reasonable number. It is between 0 and 20, so I know I must be correct. I've underlined my answer again there. So let's move on to part 8, question 8. So part A says the cost of one book is £M. What is the cost of 15 books in pounds? And it wants us here to give the answer in terms of M, because we don't know what the value of M is. So if 1 is M, then I need to do 15 times M, which would be 15M, but this is pounds, so I probably need to write down the unit in my answer. So 15M would be my answer. Part B. Yuan has 20 oranges. He gives away K oranges. How many oranges does Yuan have now? Well, he started with 20 oranges, and we've given away or taken away K oranges, and that's the answer. That's it. We're just rewriting it, but in terms of that K. Moving on. Right, we've got a question here. This box is 5 centimeters long, 3 centimeters wide, and 4 centimeters high. The box doesn't have a lid. Complete an accurate net of the box on the centimeter square grid below. The base has been drawn for you. So you need to try and visualize this box. Now, if I spread out the different sides, I'm going to have the base first of all. If I think about the base, the horizontal base, that would look, it's a rectangle, isn't it? I'm going to draw a little sketch here to make it easier before I draw. I know that this side is 3 long and the longer length is 5. Okay, so that's the bottom taken care of. It hasn't got a top, but if we look at the far side, the one here, again, that's a rectangle, and that would join here. So we want a rectangle like that. It's still 5 long, but it's 4 high. So that side must be 4. On the other side at the front, we've also got a side here, and that's 4 long on that side there. Again, it's 5 here and 5 here. And the only other bits are the edges here and here, which are the same sizes. And if I look, that's 3 deep and 4 high. So it's 3 deep, and I want to go out 4 here. So I want that to be 4 long, and that to be 4 long. Now, the reason I've done it as a sketch, first of all, is because it now wants me to accurately draw the net of that shape. So I've kind of given myself all the measurements I need. I now need to draw it accurately. Now, I haven't got a ruler here that I'm going to use, but I'm going to draw my freehand, but please use a ruler when you're doing it in the exam. So I'm looking at the top bit here. We've got the base already drawn. They've done that for us very kindly. We need to go 4 squares that way. Okay, because the box is actually taller than it is deep. Okay, so that's the back wall, that one there done. I need to draw the one the other side, and so I'm drawing down here like this. And across, so that's that one drawn. Draw the edge here, and I need to go 4 along that way. That's only 3, so I go to 4. And then match the other side here, so it was 1, 4 here as well. And just checking, does that look right? It does. If I folded that up, that should give me the same box as the top, and it doesn't have a lid, so I don't need the extra one to go on top. Okay, that's 2 marks. On to question 10. ABCD is a rectangle. A is the point 3,4, B is the point -5,4, C is the point -5, -2, and D is the point 3, -2. What is the perimeter? And it says you can use the square grid below to help you. So we need to draw on these points. And remembering that when we're dealing with coordinates, that the first number is the along and the second number is the up down. Okay, so 3, 4 for A would take me 3 along and 4 up. That would be here, and I'm going to label that A. So that's 3 along and 4 up. Part B is -5, 4. So go -5 on the x-axis to here, and then up 4 will take me to there, and that is B. The point C is -5, -2. So -5 and then -2 down will take me to there. And then finally point D is the point 3, -2. So that's 3 along, and then -2 will be there, and that's D. And looking at it, it looks like a rectangle. I can join up the sides. You might want to do that with a ruler. Okay, because my drawing is a little bit wobbly, but it will suffice. Okay, so it says it wants us to now work out the perimeter. That's the distance all the way around the outside of ABCD. So I'm going to write on the numbers, the length of each side on my diagram. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down that side. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 across the bottom, and it will be 8 across the top because it's a rectangle, and 6 on the opposite side to the other 6. So I'm going to have to add up 8 plus 6 plus 8 plus 6, and that will give me 8 plus 6 is 14, plus another 8 is 22, plus 6 is 28. And it's a distance, so it's centimetre because it says centimetre squared grid, and that's my answer. That's quite an easy 5 marks if you know how to plot coordinates. Okay, it's giving us here for question 11 a fraction, a percentage and a decimal, and we want to show the ascending order, and at the bottom you can see it's laid that out for you. It means smallest to biggest. So we've got to decide which ones are the smallest, first of all, and it's difficult because they're not in the same format, so we probably want to convert them all, and usually it's easier to convert them all to decimal, but you could convert them to percentage if you prefer. So 2/5. 2/5, to convert that to a decimal, I will probably want to convert it to a fraction out of 10. So to make the 10 at the bottom, I've had to double from 5 to get 10, so I double the 2 to get a 4. A 4 divided by 10 would be 0.4. So I know that 2/5 is 0.4. 9% is 9 out of 100. Okay, and that is 0.09. Okay, it's 2 decimal places smaller than 9. So I've got 0.09, so I'm going to put a little arrow because I've run out of room there, 0.09, and then 0.3 is already in decimal format. So looking at those, the smallest one is the 0.09. So 9% is the smallest. Here we go, there's 9%. And then after that, we've got either 0.3 or 0.4. Well, 0.3 is the next one up. And then 0.4 is the biggest value, and that's 2/5. So I do tend to write them down in the same format that they were given in the question, though you will get away, I think, with not doing that. Let me just quickly check the mark scheme, and it'll probably tell me on the mark scheme whether that's acceptable, but I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, it's acceptable to just write it down as all the decimals, as long as you put them in the right order. Okay, so the area of the rectangle for question 12. So the area of the rectangle is 80 centimeters squared. The length of the rectangle is 5 times its width. Calculate the length and the width of the rectangle. Right, so that's tricky, isn't it? So if we don't know what the length of it is, or the width of it is, but if I said that the width was x, and the length here is 5 times the width, that means this one is 5x. Okay, so we've now got the lengths in terms of x. Calculate the length of the width and the width of the rectangle. Well, if I was working out the area of that, the area equals the length times the width. That's 5x times by x, which is 5x squared. But we already know that the area is 80 centimeters squared. So I can now say, sorry, I'll bring that down a little bit, that 5x squared, the area, is equal to the 80 centimeters squared that we're told. So I need to probably ignore, I need to probably ignore the centimeters squared there while I do the calculation, because I don't want to confuse myself. So to simplify that, I'm trying to get down to find out what x is first of all. So I'm going to get rid of this 5. That's a times by 5, so I'm going to divide by 5. And that will give me x squared there, but I've got to remember to divide the other side by 5 as well. So 80 divided by 5 would be, 80 divided by 10 will be 8. So 80 divided by 5 will be double that, which is 16. And to get rid of the squared, I'm going to square root. That will change the x squared to just an x. And I've got to square root the other side as well. Well, the square root of 16 is 4. So I know that this side here is 4. So the width is 4 centimeters. And 5 times that 4 would be 20 centimeters. So we've got 20 centimeters there and 4 centimeters for the width. Question 13. Oh, some more algebra here. So, solving equation 3x minus 10 is equal to 17. So it's just rearranging the equation and trying to get down to what x equals. This is what solve it means. So the first thing I'm going to get rid of is that minus 10. The opposite of minus 10 is add 10. That leaves just 3x on the left hand side equals, and then I've got to add 10 to the other side as well. That gives me 17 plus 10 is 27. Now to get rid of the 3 here, this is 3 times x, so I'm going to divide by 3. That gives me x here, and then I'm going to divide the other side by 3 as well. So 27 divided by 3 is 9, and that's my answer. Part B is a simplified question. This means gather the like terms together. So we're looking at things that are the same. We've got a 6f here and a plus 2f here. So 6f plus 2f is 8f. And then dealing with the g's, I've got to be a little bit careful because there's negative signs here. I've got a negative 4G take away a 9G. So negative 4 take away 9 will be negative 13G. That's the answer. Don't be tempted at this point to add the 8 and the 13 or take 13 away from 8. Because those letters are different, we can't simplify any further. Question 14. So there's nice multi-choice questions. Which of the following is nearest in mass to 5 kilograms? We need to know the conversion rate. So 1 kilogram is equal to approximately 2.2 pounds. Okay, so if we want 5 kilograms will be 5 times 2.2. So 5 times by 2.2 is, well, 10 times by 2.2 is 22, and half of that will be 11. So it's 11 pounds. Okay, so that, and in fact 11 pounds is one of the answers given, so that's the conversion that we would put down. Next, it's saying which of the following is nearest in volume to 100 litres. Okay, so we've got to think about what the conversion rate is for pints and litres. Well, if you think about pints of milk, there's roughly 2 pints in a litre. Okay, so 2 pints is approximately equal to 1 litre. And we've got 100 litres, so it's going to be 200 pints. No, in fact, I've got that conversion wrong. 2 pints, in fact, is 175 pints. 175 pints is 100 litres. 1 litre, that's not correct. 1 litre is equal to 1.75 pints. I wasn't very accurate in my conversion at the start, so apologies for that. So the correct conversion is 1 litre is equal to 1.75 pints, and so 100 litres will be 175 pints. These conversions are things that you should remember, because they're not given to you. You need to know what they are. Okay. Question 15 rather. We're getting close to the end of the paper here, I think, the way we're going. Rian is n years old. Samir is 7 years younger than Rian. Nigel is twice as old as Samir. Write down an expression in terms of n for Nigel's age. Wow, that's quite a complicated sounding question, isn't it? So let's break that down. So we've got Rian, and she is n years of age. Samir is 7 years younger than Rian. That means if Rian is n, Samir is 7 less than that. So he is n minus 7 in age. And then it says Nigel is twice as old as Samir. Well, if Samir is n minus 7 years of age, then Nigel is 2 times n minus 7 years of age. Okay, and that's the answer that we want. The 2 lots of n minus 7 is Nigel's age, so it's 2n minus 7. S 16. The mean of 4 numbers is 7. What is the total of the 4 numbers? So if we were working out the mean of 4 numbers, we would be adding up the values. So we would do 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8, and we would work out divided by 4, and it would give us the mean. Now that would not give us 7. So what do all those numbers have to add up to, that when I divide it by 4 I get 7. Well, 4 times 7 is 28. So 28 is the answer. And just checking, 28, if the total was 28 and we divided it by 4, we would get a mean of 7. Part B. Find a set of 4 numbers such that their mean is 7 and their range is 6. Write your 4 numbers in the box below. Well, there are multiple answers that are possible for this. So we've got 4 values. I'm going to show working here by writing out some blanks first of all. We want 4 numbers in there. We want the mean to be 7. So it'd be a good idea probably to write, it doesn't say that I have to have all different numbers. Okay, so I could probably put 7 as the 2 middle numbers. That would make life a little bit easier. Okay, now the range has to be 6. So if the mean is going to be 7, this has got to total, as we found out from before, 28. So we want 2 more numbers now, because we've got 14 here and here altogether. We need another 14. So we need 14 for the final 2 answers. Now they've got to be 6 apart. So if I think of a number below 7, half of 6 is 3, isn't it? So if I go 3 below 7, that would give me 4 here. And then if I go 3 above 7, that will give me 10 there. Those two do add up to 14, and all my numbers add up to 28. So now I've got a mean of 7, correct, and a range of 6. 10 minus 4 is 6, and so that's okay, isn't it? But there are other answers that are possible there that would work, but it's the thought process that you need to go through to make sure that you've got an answer that's acceptable. Okay, moving on. Question 17. Find the size of the angles A, B and C. Okay, this is parallel lines. You can see here that we've got parallel lines in. So the rules involved here are that the angles are there's only 2 types of angle in these grids here. There's acute angles and there's obtuse angles, and all the acute angles are the same value, acute being less than 90 degrees. So any less than 90 degree angles that are given will be 63 degrees, because that's the acute angle here, isn't it? So A there must be 63 degrees. Okay, there are no other acute angles listed there. The other angles, the obtuse angles, okay, they are lying on a straight line here with the 63. Okay, and just think about how we would do that. So let's go back. Let's do this side here. Okay, if I was trying to find that obtuse angle there, I can see that this is a straight line which must add up to 180. So this angle must add with 63 to give 180. So 180 minus 63 gives me 10 take away 3 is 7, 7 take away 6 is 1, it's 117. So that angle there is 117 degrees. So that means all the other obtuse angles, in other words this one and this one, are also 117. Okay, so our A value was 63 degrees, our B value was 117 degrees, and our C value was also 117 degrees. Okay, moving on to question 18. 2 fair spinners are shown below. In a game, the numbers shown by the 2 pointers are added together. In the diagram, the score gained will be 2 plus 3 equals 5. A winning score is 6 or more. How many winning scores would you expect when the game is played 60 times. Okay. Well, we need to think about how we're going to combine these, because what we've got here is 2 spinners and the totals that we're interested in. So probably I'm going to have to make a bit of space there. So we've got a spinner A and a spinner B. We probably want a sample space diagram here. So do we want to do that? How many winning scores would you expect when the game is played 60 times? Okay. So if we have spinner A and spinner B listed here, so let's call that one A at the top and B here. The choices of marks for A are 1, 2 or 3. And the choices for B are 1, 2, 3 and 4. I'm going to draw that in. And we're going to add the scores together. Okay, so we could have a 1 from spinner A and a 1 from spinner B. That would give a total of 2. Okay, so I'm going to fill in these things, adding them up. 1 plus 2 is 3, 1 plus 3 is 4, 2 plus 1 is 3, 2 plus 2 is 4, and you can see there's a pattern forming in the way that these are. So if you're going to follow the pattern, do check occasionally that it's all right. So I'm just going to put the pattern in. 2, 3, it's 3, 4, 5, and then it's 1 plus 3 is 4, 5, 6, and 1 plus 4 is 5, 6, 7. Okay, so the ones inside, be careful that you don't include the numbers on the top there, so just make that really distinct. So we've got 12 different possibilities there. Okay, so we've got to work out how many of those are winning scores. The winning score is 6 or more. So we look at where we've got 6 or more in here. So it's that one, R6, and also more than that is 7. So there's 3 winning scores out of 12. So the probability of getting a winning score is 3 out of the 12 possible results that are possible in that table. But only 3 are winning. And if we're going to play the game 60 times, then the chances of winning are 3 over 12. That's the probability for doing it on one go, times by the 60 goes that we're going to have. Okay, so 3 times 60 is 180, and we're dividing that by 12. Okay, so we need to be able to do that. I'm going to half those numbers to get 90 over 6. I'm going to divide that by 3, so that gives me 30 over 2, and then it is 15 is the outcome. Okay, 15 is the outcome. So there are 15 expected wins. Very close to the end of the paper now. So question 19 says express 48 as a percentage of 400. So as a fraction of 400, we've got 48 out of 400. But if we're now going to put it as a percentage, we're going to times that by 100. Okay, so we want to express it as a percentage out of 100, so we've done that, and now I need to simplify that. Well, I can cancel, if I'd use different colours here, that makes it a bit nicer. If I cancel zeros top and bottom, times by 100, divide by 100, this becomes 48 over 4. Well, 48 divided by 4 is 12, and that's my answer. share £45 in the ratio 8:1. Well, when we're dealing with ratios, we need to know how many parts there are altogether, and that is the 8 parts on the left hand side plus 1 part on the right hand side is 9 parts in total. So if I'm sharing £45 out, in total between those 9 parts, to work out the number per part, it's £45 divided by 9, which is £5 per part. And the 8, each of those parts is worth 5, so I want to do 8 times by £5, which is £40. So I put £40 in there, and then the 1 is simply 1 times by £5, which is not difficult to work out, which is £5. And checking these two values do add up to give me the £45 that we had at the start of the question. Part C. Express 1 minus 1 over 2 cubed as a single fraction in the form a over b. Okay, so we need to simplify 1 minus 1. The 1's okay to deal with, but the 1 over 2 cubed is a little bit more tricky. So I'm going to rewrite this then. 1 minus 1 over, now 2 cubed is 2 times 2 times 2, which is 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. So I'm going to replace the 2 cubed with 8. So I've got 1 minus 1/8. So it's 1's a fraction and 1's a whole number. So if I make the first one a fraction out of 8, 1 is equivalent to 8 out of 8, and I'm taking 1 over 8 away from it, so my answer would be 7 out of 8 left. So the answer is 7 over 8. Question 20. Rotate the shape shown below 90 degrees anti-clockwise about the origin. Now this is a question that I would recommend you you get some tracing paper from the examiner. It's going to be difficult for me to do that on here, but what you're going to do is you're going to lay your tracing paper over the shape, and then put your pen in where the center of the circle is, center of the rotation is, and rotate in the right direction by the right number of degrees. Okay, so I'll try and demonstrate that just by drawing on here. So it says rotate the shape 90 degrees anti-clockwise about the origin. When they say the origin, what they mean is this point here. Okay, so we're going to trace over this shape, and we're going to rotate it anti-clockwise. Now anti-clockwise is that way, okay, in the opposite direction to a clock, and we want 90 degrees that way, so we want a quarter of a turn. Okay, so we're going to go a quarter of a turn, and we're going to put our pen on that bit and rotate the shape once we've traced it. Now it should end up a bit further down on the right hand side somewhere, because it's going to rotate sort of in this direction. Okay, and it actually will end up, I think, if I'm right in thinking, let me just do it and just check it. So it should end up looking like this, and it goes across to there, and it's going 3 squares up, isn't it? So across. Obviously when you draw it, make sure you use a ruler and make sure it's really neat. So I've drawn my shape now, and that seems right to me. The shape is the same size. I should just check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that way, and then this way 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It has, if you think about the shape itself, turned through a quarter of a turn anti-clockwise. Okay, but its position has changed as well, and if it's not in that position, it's because you won't have taken the center of rotation at the origin there. Okay, And that's it. That's the end of the paper. So well done. It's important to recognise that that's not taken quite as long as perhaps you would take on the exam, which means that you've got time to go back over your questions at the end and make sure that you haven't made any little slips, or to have a go at the questions that maybe you didn't find that easy the first time round and maybe didn't quite finish. So there is plenty of time. There is no need to rush. Just take your time, do your best, and good luck.